Can you hear me? Hello? Can you
Yeah,
hear me?
yeah. How are you? Can you see everybody? Can you hear me? Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Can you hear us?
It's on.
Okay. You hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. Wow, I got the whole family. Nice.
Hey, how are you, man?
Fine. Apparently, I'm still, I don't know if it's the technology or what happened, but it seemed like I just couldn't get on. I couldn't see you. I was looking for you, and but it worked out all well.
Yeah.
So let me make sure I have every. I'm sorry. I know Christian and Tanya.
Oh, this is my husband. This is Greg. This is Christian's father.
How are you?
Hey,
Nice to meet you.
nice meeting you, Greg.
Nice
Appreciate
to meet
that.
you as well.
Nice to come aboard. You've done a wonderful job with your son, you and your wife both.
Thank
Fine
you very
young
much.
man, and anything I can do to try to get him to an NBA roster, I'm doing my best.
Oh, we
All right, we appreciate
appreciate that.
anything you can
Thank
do.
you.
All right, you're welcome. So what I'll do now is I'll give us a couple of seconds to breathe, and then I will start the podcast. So I'll count down to five. Five, four, three, two, one. Hello, Capital Go-Go fans. Welcome to the third season of the Capital City Go-Go Basketball Chat Podcast. It's hard to believe that I've been doing this for 3 years. We're growing. We started out as a audio podcast. We've grown to a YouTube channel, and we also have online a newsletter, Capital City Go Insight. So if you want to check out the YouTube channel, just check in Capital City Go Basketball Chat Podcast. And for the Substack, that'll give you the G2 Insight newsletter. That's the written version of what we do on the podcast. You type in Substack, Sam Pearson, G2 Insight. And now, with regard to our branching out still, now we have a YouTube channel, and the YouTube channel is Capital City Go G2. Type that into YouTube. And so you've got 3 ways now in order to watch the podcast, get some interviews that we're going to be doing now that I'm really looking forward to. And to give a little backstory, not only about Christian Kelly, who we're going to interview, but his family, his mother and his father, which I think is an important story to tell, considering, how difficult it is to get into the NBA. So one of the things I wanted to do first is we're going to talk a little bit about Christian's childhood. So I'm going to first talk to the mom and and ask her about when does she think that Christian had NBA talent, and then I'll ask a follow-up question with regard to the father about when did someone tell him outside of the family that he had basketball talent.
I think I recognized his talent when he was in middle school. He was dedicated. My husband would drop him off at the high school for practice like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, always the last one to come out, but he was more into football. And he was following in his brother's footsteps as far as basketball, but football was his thing. And then we went to see his brother play at the high school. He was sitting and there was a banner hanging on the wall, and he asked what it was, and my husband explained to him, if you score over 1,000 points, your name goes down in history. And I kind of looked at him like, stay in your lane, you're more
Right.
football,
Probably.
right, basketball, it's for you. He just kept looking. And then I thought about dreams. Dreams do come true.
Sure.
2 years later, he left the school. He came over to the high school, changed his whole physique, had dropped 17 pounds, got in shape. And he said, I'm determined to get my name up on that banner. And he actually did. He was a 1,000-point scorer.
Wow, fantastic, fantastic. So Greg, tell me, how did obviously you and your wife considered that he had NBA talent. When did somebody outside of the family say, pulled you aside and say, have you ever thought about him playing in the NBA or, getting a college scholarship or anything like that?
Well, when he was small, I didn't hear much of the NBA talk yet.
Okay.
But everybody could clearly identify that he was a driven kind of individual. Like my wife just alluded to, he saw that 1,000-point banner and he looked at me and first of all, he said, "It's not many names up there, Dad." And I said, "Because it's hard to get 1,000 points."
Yeah.
Right then he says, "I can do it." And I said, "You think you can do it, Chris?" He said, "I can do it." I said, "I believe you." And his name is there. But I first realized that Christian had a real passion for basketball when I think he was about 11 years old. His brother had just learned how to drive a car.
Mm-hmm.
And I had given him the keys to my car, and the two of them went up to the court to play. About 30 minutes go past, and they come back in the house, and Christian is crying uncontrollably. I thought something had happened. He got into a little scrap or something.
Yep, exactly.
And I asked Christian why he was crying. He said, "Because I didn't want to leave the court yet.
Wow.
He wasn't done playing." So I said, "You want to go back up there?" He said, "Yeah, Daddy, take me back up to the court." We went back up to the court and we stayed there until it was dark, until he was done.
Wow.
Then I knew he had a real passion
for it.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. One of the things I was telling your wife, Tanya, that I wanted to do this interview for a very long time, but I wanted to pick the right time to do it. And it so happens that I thought about it for a while, and I realized that I met Christian briefly when he tried out with the Go-Go, and I can't believe that he kept the business card. And then somehow, a couple of months later, I get a text, or I can't remember, or a call from Tanya's.
I called you.
Yeah, call you was a call. Okay. And I was like, wow, the business card really worked. So I thought it would be appropriate that I would start the third season kind of going back a little bit, because I was if you listen, Go fans, to episode 41, if you Google that and you get Christian's backstory with regard to some of the things that his parents are alluding to now. So it's kind of really kind of going full circle here. So I'm really excited about that. Let me first, before I ask Christian to participate, as a parent, and as when I was young, my parents did the same thing, because parents are committed to their kids and they want them to do better than they did. How did you both feel about, especially Christian with his exceptional basketball skills, developing, getting up early in the morning or picking him up late at night? That's kind of a chore. I guess I didn't appreciate my parents doing that when I was young and I was playing basketball and football. What do you think now in hindsight about doing all those activities when maybe you worked hard and you just want to kind of rest for a little while, but you had to get up and do the commitment for Christian and your other son?
Well, I think it's absolutely key for anybody to have success in anything is to have support.
Yeah.
And you have to start with the people closest to you who are going to support you. I don't really look at it as a hardship or anything that I wouldn't want to do. But I learned a long time ago with Christian to help support his dreams. And I've committed myself, my wife has committed herself, and his brother has also committed himself,
Oh, okay.
doing everything we possibly can to support him in his efforts. So I think that's the only way you have success in life, is by having the right group of people around you, and they have to be supportive. So he has a very small group of people, but we are all on Team Christian. So
Yes.
we've been
Yes.
that way. I tell him all the time, you steer and we'll push from the back. That's what
Nice. Nice. That's one of the reasons why I really wanted to get this story, because I was so impressed with Christian and his mother, because here in the house I was telling my wife about it. So my wife dubs her GM Christian, the GM and stuff like that. So Christian, let me hear from you. How do you feel about your parents' support? And I know it's a difficult time right now because you got this interview and you're in the middle of trying out for an MBA. So how does the support of your parents help you motivate you?
It means a lot. They're very key towards my success moving forward, and have always been. They've always been to all my games,
Good.
home and away, high school, and even college.
Hmm.
They've been every step there with me. They helped me get to the gym. They helped me pick up at night. They sacrificed a lot
Yes.
to help me, pursue my dreams. They'll sneak in at night at the gym with me. They'll get up early in the morning, weekends, all type of stuff.
Yeah.
They always help me out, and they've definitely helped me finance my career as well.
Hmm.
Because stuff's not easy, stuff's not cheap. You have to pay to get into these things unless you know somebody, to
Right.
away with. So they definitely, helped my basketball career in more ways than I can explain, growing up and currently.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you acknowledging your parents, because that was one of the things I noticed right away with Tanya. She was just so involved and really committed, and had me thinking like, you got some good parents, and this society, I don't necessarily think values parenting as much as they used to. So it was nice to see that the mother and the father were very involved in a young man's career going forward like this. Let me go back to Tanya and ask her, with regard to when you're sitting down and you're watching Christian have a good game or a bad game. Let's say he has a bad game. How do you motivate him? And or is there a phrase that you could tell Christian, or is it game by game about, your jump shot was off a little bit or something like that?
It's usually um, game by game, and on occasion we drive separate because he has a different style, his father, and I have a different style. And his father's more direct, more, you didn't do this or you didn't. And I'm kind of like, okay, well, we have those off nights, and your
Yeah.
shot was off a little bit. Were you hungry? Did you have to go to the bathroom?
Yeah.
And let's just throw it off and let's just move on to
Move
the
on.
next. Yeah, I'm more, let's stop and get a snack, get a treat.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
that's interesting,
yeah.
because my dad was a basketball coach, and he coached my brother, and it was very, very difficult because my father was sort of like Greg, and you were like my mother, and I was just kind of in between. And when games went well, they went well, and when they didn't go well, they didn't go well. So I completely understand about that difficulty. Another question I wanted to ask was, and this is for both of all three of you, actually. And one of the things that I want to do on the podcast is, and one of the reasons why I picked the G League is because I want to tell the story of people. It doesn't necessarily matter if you are a basketball player or gymnastic. I want to tell stories about people's journeys, and some of the journeys that if you want to be successful, you have to spend time to do that. So I want to hear from each one of you on the follow-up question with regard to is, what is it that when you have a difficulty or an obstacle to overcome, what do you use as a motivation to, you know, pursue, to keep going forward? And I'll start with you, Tanya, and then I'll go to Christian, and then Greg.
I usually follow the season. I usually look at when the tryouts are coming.
Yeah, exactly.
Check the rosters. I look at who's returning player, who has rights, how many guards they have. I months ahead, and he's usually like, "Oh, well, it's kind of early." I'm like, I'm trying to get all my ducks in a row, so I know which team, which direction to go, and then I start grinding. I keep like I write papers. So okay, this person's here, this person's there. Where would Christian fit in? How would he fit in? And then I look at my husband, say, okay, well, we need to start putting some money away so we can start traveling.
Right, right. What about you, Christian? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Were you finished, Tanya?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And we work as a team. We really do.
Yeah, it comes across very well. Absolutely. What about you, Christian? If you have a bad game or if you have an injury, what do you use to motivate yourself to go forward?
I think a couple things. The support system, because you rather have somebody to be honest with you on both sides. Because sometimes a lot of kids don't have anybody to rely on. Oh, I didn't play that good, but it's whatever. Or yeah, I played good. No one can stop me. You need to have a balance of both, because they see from a different lens. You know how playing the game is way different from watching it. You may think something is this way, but then you look at the film and then you look at someone outside like, no, you could have did this or you shouldn't have done that. I think support is the biggest thing when it goes to that, because a lot of times you might get down on yourself as a player. We all been there where you put in all this work and things don't work out, or you put in no work and things have worked out. It's kind of a balance. You kind of have to not get too high, not get too low. And biggest thing I think is knowing the person you're talking to. If your kid or whoever is someone that constantly, if you're going at them all the time and they obviously aren't receiving that, it could be a push. It could be a pushback, a battle every time. So you have to learn how to communicate with your kid as far as what's the best way to get him more motivated, get him more excited to get back in the gym. Me, yelling at me isn't always the best way. You can always talk to them on how to do something. Now, I'm not saying things can't get heated. That's part of life. That's part of relationships, stuff like that. And you're closer, so you can get away with stuff like that, But I think just being able to communicate effectively in ways that you can get your point across and he or she can get their point across from them. And you guys come to a mutual agreement as far as what you want to do.
Sure. Yeah, that's important.
Now that is true, because certain things might happen and he'll mention it to me and it's like, see, that's your son. You say something to him. Like, we kind of know when each person to step in to assess what Christian has done. And, if I have to be a little critical of like, okay, I have to really, like, look, he's not in the huddle. Look where he is.
Oh, and one thing, one thing is obvious is the work.
Yeah.
If you get super down on yourself after one bad performance, you kind of are taking, account for the work you may or may have not put in.
Right.
I have one bad shooting game or two. I know I can rely on me getting back in the gym, because that's where I know how it starts. And that's how, you get out of a slump, a mental slump, a shooting slump, all types of stuff, get the feeling back, get the touch back, and get your motivation back, Because at the end of the day, it's discipline. Most of the time, you're not going to be motivated to do a lot of things, but it's your discipline over the time to get you back in the rhythm of things.
Good advice. Good advice. Very astute. I like that. What about you, Greg? What's your motivation when things aren't going quite the way you'd like? What do you do to pick yourself up and go forward?
Well, I know that life in general will always throw you curves, but you will always go through good times and bad times. I happen to be a spiritual kind of person, so I try and pass that information on to Christian. I've always been an athlete my entire life, so I understand basketball from actually playing basketball, and I think he respects that.
Okay.
So what I know about athletes is athletes want to be told the truth. They want you to be honest with them, and they want you to give them some constructive criticism. So I think he's able to, although he doesn't always like it, he at least accepts my constructive criticism.
Yeah.
And, I think that's key, because that's the only way you grow. You have to understand what your issues are, and then move on from there. Find out how to make the corrections, and then move forward. And then as long as And I'm sure he understands and always understood everything that we say out of love and out of support for him. So, given the fact that he's going to have slumps, he's going to have days that he may not get along with a particular coach or teammate or whatever, it's a process that he has to follow through. So, I think he's willing, he's mature enough as a young man and as an athlete to accept all those things and move forward. That's why he's at the position he's at right now.
Yeah, well, that's sage advice, because one of the things, because I'm getting a little bit older, I won't say my age, but what I find is that the young people now don't take as much criticism, or they can't handle criticism well. They take it personally, and one of the things that, and each one of you have kind of touched on that in different ways, is, it's got to be constructive. If you're yelling at somebody, nobody's going to deal with that. But the person on the receiving end, who you think you're trying to improve, they need to be a little bit more open to hearing honesty about how to improve or what you need to work on. So you've all touched on a very important subject, I think, going forward. As I said earlier, about these podcasts are not just about basketball, but it is about life in general and some of the things you have to overcome to get a successful career or whatever motivates you going forward. So I really appreciate each of your analysis with regard to that. One of the things I want to kind of shift toward is Mom here with regard to, as I said, we call her here NBA mom or NBA agent. So to give a little backstory with regard to Tanya and how I've developed a relationship with this family, is I had a business card that I gave to Christian to, come on the podcast. I had 30 business cards made up, and of those 30, I had 5 people that were really interested in doing the podcast, and Christian was one. So when I eventually ended up with 4. So Christian is one of the original people on this podcast. And as I interviewed him and we were finishing up the interview, your mother, Christian, or Tanya, came across telling me stories, or at least a story about the G League draft, which I found fascinating, because one of the things you see on TV is ESPN, everybody's dressed up and they've got the celebrities. But it was nice to hear Tanya's story about just regular folks like me and all the go-go people that listen to the podcast, about what was it like to wait by the phone or the computer. Could you give me a little background into the audience of what happened on draft night, G League, or the G League draft day?
Yeah.
See, again, I thought I knew basketball, but I didn't know any of that.
Well, when you're not a high-profile athlete with a lot of following, or you didn't go to a good school, you kind of have to, in a way, dumb it down. It's not like you said, guys dressed up, a whole family party, drinks on. So no, it's kind of laid back. Especially if you're not one of the main people that is in there, and you're not one of the main people, you kind of just have to sit by the phone. Literally, we were just in our living room, watching it live on our laptop. So what happened was, there was a website and it was live basically, and it would say it had like 60 picks. You would see each person get picked or skipped or whatever. We watching it live, slowly but surely. As you're already nervous anyways, because you never know if it's going to work out, where you're going to go. You got 100 different things going through your mind at that time. If everything was going in,
right,
it would work. So we're just watching it live, name my name, and naturally you have all emotions. He got picked, him, or I thought I should look like I was gonna go there. You got all type of things,
Yeah.
And I didn't get picked, and it was just like, all right, what now? And then a few minutes go by, and then we all disperse because we're all like, all right, we've been sitting for a few minutes, we don't know. I was waiting by my phone. I went upstairs, and then my ex-agent called me, hey, we're going to Utah. So, we're all partying, celebrating, all together, crying, hugging.
Wow.
And then I get another call a few minutes later, hey, we're going to New York instead. And then boom. So we went from low to high, or even higher. So,
yeah.
And the draft wasn't that long either. It wasn't like no hour thing, because it's obviously not like the NBA draft. you know, and there's no TV, no nothing. So it was only less than 30 minutes, all that. So you go from
Wow.
yeah, it wasn't that long. So that's why it was even more of a experience because it was just
Right.
us. It was intimate. It was just 30 minutes, close family there, and then boom. So that's how it was. It really wasn't.
Wow.
Really wasn't nothing besides the last 10 minutes of it to
Uh-huh.
talk about because
You never really get that until I discussed it with your mom. I never knew that something that was so low key like that. So let me ask the parents, what did you think when you knew your son had made it?
Well, the thing about it was, we saw the list, we saw the names, and his brother was here, and we all sat around and we're watching. They go through all the names, and it was over, and his name wasn't called, and he went upstairs, and his brother looked at me and said, "So what do we do now?" I said, "I don't know." I said, "I really don't. I don't honestly know." I said, "I don't know." Then Christian said his ex-agent called him and said, "You're going to Utah."
Mm.
We hugged, we cried, we got emotional. I jumped in the car. I went out. I had to buy toiletries, undershirts, because they were like, you have 24, 48 hours. They'll reach out to you, they'll make arrangements. So I'll never forget, I'm up at Dollar Tree getting his favorite candy was Rips. And his brother's trying to get a ticket. He said, "Well, I'll get a plane ticket. I'll go with him." We're like, "Great."
Wow.
And my husband said, "Stop. He's not going to Utah." I kept thinking, "Oh, wow, Gabrielle Union, Zaire Wade was on that team."
Yeah.
He said, "He's going to New York." I was like, "The Knicks?"
oh,
Yeah.
so also what kind of made it crazy, what's even more crazy because we were unprepared in a way. We didn't really know.
Yeah.
We didn't really know. So like my ex agent, I signed a G League contract like a day before, like hours before the deadline, and we didn't.
Wow.
I was like, "Oh, I signed something." We didn't really know what it meant. We
Right.
didn't know I was gonna get put in the draft because the draft was the next day. Like it was
Okay.
really, like I was at the gym and he called and blow my phone up. I had my headphones on. Luckily, I had my headphones on. And I
Yeah.
had my Bluetooth where I kept seeing him call. He's like, "You got something right now, right now."
Yeah.
And I didn't know what he was talking about. I really didn't. And then I saw the video. I'm like, "Okay, cool." Boom. And then the next day, that happened, and we didn't know what was next because when they said, "Oh, you got 24 hours, you gotta get ready," we like, "Oh, we didn't know."
Right.
When we had no idea of when or how or what. We just knew we had to start reacting that fast. So that's why it was all pandemonium. Not only where we're gonna go, what happened, it was what we're gonna do now. Like we gotta get all prepared because I'm leaving my family for the first time besides college,
Mm.
away. So and I'm a little older, so it's a lot different.
Yeah.
I sent his brother with him. I was like, they were like, "We're trying to get plane tickets." They called him, they asked his size, what his favorite color. I mean, they asked him so many things. Like they were trying to get his apartment ready.
Wow.
And they were like, "Okay, well, unfortunately, we can't get a flight. We can't get tickets, but you have to be here within 24 hours. Do you mind going on the train?" So he was like, "No." So his brother said, "I'll go with him." So
Yeah.
my husband and I stayed. We packed mostly everything. We jumped in the car. So we said we drive to New York to meet him at the apartment. They had put him up in a hotel. His apartment wasn't ready yet.
Oh.
And they were like, "Okay, as soon as the carpeting's put down, everything's finished, we'll have someone move you." And so we went up there, we met them, we went out to dinner, and couldn't believe it was like, "You're actually up here with the Knicks." Like
Exactly.
within
That,
24 hours, it seems so surreal.
that's
God
fantastic.
had blessed, God had blessed him.
Yeah, that was nice. And I remember also you were telling me, Tanya, about your experience as a GM with one of the semi-pro leagues. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay,
Wait. We had to have his point of view
wait,
from.
they have his.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
And
We kind of did it all, but
Well, to be honest with you, on draft night, my heart was pounding out of my chest the entire time. With each team and each selection, I was just expecting his name to appear. We were actually all watching it in different areas. My wife was on the couch, I'm at the table, he's upstairs in his room, but we all on laptops and we all watching it go. Every time I saw a team pop up and a selection and it wasn't him, a little piece of me died.
Oh man, but I can understand.
Yeah, because we all had such high hopes. So eventually, when it came to the end and he hadn't been selected, it was dead silence in the house. It was dead silence in the house. And then in a matter of 5 minutes.
Yeah, I don't even know if that
Right.
A
long.
matter of 3 to 5 minutes, his agent called him, and he's running downstairs with his agent on speakerphone, talking about he's going to Utah, and the entire emotion of the house switched from sadness to elation,
Mhm.
you know, in seconds. And then it went from Utah, from the West Coast, all the way to
Oh,
the
to
East
East
Coast.
Coast.
He was like, okay, he's right here. We can pop up and down and see him. So it was a really emotional roller coaster of
Yeah.
emotions.
Also, he said it was best that his name didn't get called because when he went into the pool, the Cleveland Cavaliers G League wanted him, and also the Capital City Go-Go's wanted him.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's what
Fantastic.
he said. So
Yeah.
he ended
Yeah.
up
If you don't get picked, you are basically a free agent. So
Yeah.
you can't
He
have a
goes to
choice.
school in
That
other
worked out well.
countries. Right, it worked out
Yeah.
for him.
Well, we're getting toward the end here, but I do want Tanya to talk a little bit about your experience with regard to with the semi-pro team. What did you do, and how did you enjoy that, or did you enjoy it?
No, me. Okay, they can stay, or it's up to them. You guys are finished. Okay. What happened was, I saw an ad, and they were looking for a general manager of a basketball team. I had become familiar with the TBL, and I knew of them. So, I called, set up an interview, did the interview, and I got the job.
Nice.
I was very impressed with myself. And my husband kept thinking, you only got it because Christian's your son and his name.
Mhm.
And I thought about it, I was like, okay, well, you know, okay.
You got it.
Right, but I thought also on what I knew. I had educated myself. I had looked a lot into the TBL and what they were offering. They're like the G League. Their salary isn't as much, but going forward with this season, they do have the BSL, so there's no salary cap. So the
Oh,
money
okay.
will be, the checks will be very nice.
Nice.
The hard part for me was I met with the CEO and the president, Dave Magley and Daniel Santos and Billy Cunningham, who used to be with the Sixers, and who else? I'm sorry, Billy Owens. Okay.
Oh, Billy, yeah, right.
He was our coach, and he seemed very nice. We talked a lot. We got to know each other, and then we had tryouts. And the hard part at first was in the interview process. They said, considering you're the GM and your son's trying out, can you be fair and partial? Can you, if he doesn't get selected, are you going to stay with it?
Right,
If he
exactly.
doesn't get playing time on the court, I said, he has to earn it. Are you comfortable with that? I said, yes, we're two separate entities. I can separate myself from being a GM and, being his mother.
Right.
A couple of times when we had practice, my husband said to me, a couple of people found out that Christian's your son, so they kept thinking, oh, he's going to get favoritism, he's going to get selected. And it was really hard at first because
No, sure.
we'd have to assess different players, see what we needed, how many guards, how many forwards, centers. And when the process came and we're in the room sitting, I kept waiting for his name to be called. And the inside, I'm like, oh God, what's his name doesn't get called? Like, what am I going to do? How am I going to feel? And then as we started to cut people and his name got called, I was like, okay. It felt good that he got on his own talent.
Yeah.
We had a scrimmage. We got blown out. It was, and then the process, the season was about to start. We ran into some financial issues, or we had to pull back. And our season didn't go forward. We were very hurt and very disappointed. But I worked my hardest to get the location, the practice facility. We had the uniforms. We were going to, have a lot of great activities. But going forward, as I said, I met with the president and the CEO. We're better financially. We have everything set up. We'll have our first tryout in 2 months, and we're ready for the 23-24 season.
Nice story. Well, that's about it for this episode. Well, at the time of this recording, we're in between the G League tryouts across the nation. So we're ahead of the curve, and I will let my guests know when I publish this. I tried to probably wait a week. And one of the things I wanted to do was to cover their experience with regard to the G League, semi-pro league. And I think this would be a nice way to start the year off. Again, my third year, and it also completes the cycle. So the very first time I went, I didn't know anything about media. I went to Christian's go-go tryout. And so I thought this would be a nice way to start the year off and keep me motivated to make sure that I put out content and storytelling that people, no matter what, if it's basketball or law school or whatever you want to do, you have to put in the work. I think Tanya at one point mentioned the grind, and sometimes it is a grind, but you have to work hard to achieve your goals because nobody's going to hand you anything. So again, it's a nice evening here. I'm going to say goodbye, or I shouldn't say goodbye, so long to the Kelly family and wish them continued luck. And hopefully we can do a interview in person where Christian is on an NBA team and I'm the first person that gets the first interview with him.
Oh, yeah, you already know.
Oh, definitely.
You already know. You got the first one, right? So, like, you know, you can skip out on Stephen A. Smith. I'm like, all right, hold on. I got something way more important now.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I got you, Sam.
Okay, and I'll do.
You're making me melt, man. I'm feeling the love. I love it.
You already
Okay,
know.
and I'm gonna do a plug. The name of my team, Pennsylvania Kings. Okay.
The Pennsylvania Kings. Yeah, that's good. Actually, what is the website for the Pennsylvania Kings?
TBL.
TBL. Oh, okay. The basketball league.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, good night, Christian family. It was my pleasure. And thank you so much for coming aboard.
Thank you for
All right,
having
sure. Thank you
us.
for having us, man.
All right.
Enjoy
Good night,
your
Go fans.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Good night.
Bye-bye.